Call the meeting of the City of Atwater, July 27th City Council meeting to order. At this time, if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Chaplain Meade with our invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for gathering us here today, Father. We ask that you will watch over the council members and those that are contributing to this city. For all those that are here, Father, that have to speak or have things to say, Father, we pray that you'll just watch over them and help them voice their opinions in decency and in order. We just ask that you watch over our great city of Atwater and help us to do things that would glorify you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Have the roll call, please.
Bergman is absent. Raymond?
Here.
Rivero?
Here.
Vineyard?
Here.
Price?
Here.
We have a quorum.
And can we have City Attorney report out of closed session, please?
There was no reportable action taken. Direction was given to staff.
Approval of agenda as posted or as amended.
Are there any amendments to the agenda by the council? If not,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
and I'll second.
Seconding?
Second.
Okay.
Call for the question?
Rivero?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Comments from the public. At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda that is within the jurisdiction of the City Council. Please state your name and address for the record. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. To comment on an item that is on the agenda, please wait until the item is read for consideration. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes.
Is there anybody wishing to speak at public comment? Looks like there is.
Linda Dash, Atwater. I'm here to talk to you about that monstrosity that's being built along Bellevue Road in the back of the City Hall in front of the community center. It kind of reminds me of the BART station on your way up 580, going to a game. I know when it came before our commission, I asked if there were pictures of some of the work that they've done, and nobody could provide such. This was not the Planning Commission that it came before, but our local super commission. I Googled and found 2 jobs that had big jobs. One was a military base and the other was a school, but never did it show these huge, I don't even know what you call it, things. Looks like it belongs in Area 51, but it's in the middle of our town, and it's really, really ugly. One of the things that I did notice that I'm concerned about, I think the kids, I don't care, you can have 200 police officers out there 24/7, but the kids are going to use it as a jungle gym, and I think they have already, and someone's going to get hurt very badly. And so I would suggest that since this developer is doing all this, or this solar person is doing all this stuff now, that he be required to continue the brick wall clear around to the back of our police department with an electric gate. At least that might be a way of keeping, at least if it's closed in, you can say they were trespassing if they were hurt. You know, I hate to sound mean, but it's going to happen. I've never seen a city in such disarray in my life. I'm embarrassed. It's ugly. Like I said, it just looks like you need to stand out there and wait for that old high-speed rail to come by and pick up the passengers and continue on to Never Never Land, because that is the worst mess I've seen in my life. And I'm so sorry that, and you know what, this council, you didn't do it. You know, and it was not you that voted to let this happen. It was a prior council, and I just wish that they would have really asked for some plans, asked for some pictures before all this mess happened, because we're stuck with it for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there anybody else? Mr. Regan.
Otto Regan, 1750 First Street in in Atwater. I'm talking to you about my store, which is 4th and Broadway, my antique store. I paid a business license every year, and now, for some reason, I'm getting business license for all my vendors to pay up, and it's addressed Business License Processing Center, Fresno, California. And they're saying, if you don't send us the money, we've never had this before, if you don't send now, you'll be late. And don't forget, you need it for 14, 13, and 2012. And if you fail to forward the money, we'll be forwarding to the City Code Enforcement Division. And all these things are brand new to me and my vendors who bring the stuff in, and we sell, they rent the space from me, and that's all. Some of them never even come in, they're too sick. They're hobbyists. So what I don't like, it's the administration before this administration, they probably hired this lady from Fresno to collect their money. Now, my problem is, why didn't they let us know? Why didn't she, well, like I'll say, she didn't let us know. And this lady here, she gets a final notice. Final notice, and it said, we've tried to contact you for so long, and you're going to get a final notice, and you're going to get, you're going to get punished. You have to pay a fee. Well, my problem is, why didn't the city take care of this thing? Just go up there to our office next door and just pay them $60. Why did they have to go all the way to Fresno? Did she, I don't know any of you know about it, but did she promise to collect a lot of money and then get a lot of pay for collecting? I don't know the story. All I know is I've got a lot of paperwork, and they're all confused. My dealer, my vendors are confused. I guess that's all I got. Whoop. Thank you.
Otto, will you be in your store tomorrow?
Sure, I'm in here all the time.
Okay.
Almost. I'll be in there till I'm 100, and then I'm going to quit.
Yeah. I've heard that. Otto, what we'd like to do is have our finance office get in touch with you about this, okay?
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Ruthie?
Yes, I'm back again. Ruth Osteen, 60 La Playa Way, Atwater. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and residents of Atwater. We all know that here in America, people are not only allowed to express their opinions, our Constitution encourages it. So I come to speak. I came before our last council meeting expressing my opinion on our city's abusive contract for fire service. Tonight I ask you to take me seriously and show some real interest in my words concerning your misguided approval of our service contract with CAL FIRE. After all, when you spend our money and use our resources, please remember one thing. That money comes from the hardworking people of Atwater. I have not forgotten that this year's contract with CAL FIRE has been increased by 28.1%. In dollars and cents, that's $542,466. Think about that. That's over $500,000. Apparently, Atwater gave a blank check to CAL FIRE and told them to fill it out. And may I say congratulations to the bureaucrat who did that. In speaking with friends, they are shocked, as I am. They usually ask me, well, do we have that kind of money? And I always have to say, no. Now I respectfully ask the council Can this contract be obliterated and renegotiated? If not, I can only conclude that we really got snookered. And maybe a better word to use is we got screwed. Finally, that $1.5 million claimed to have been saved by switching our fire department to CAL FIRE has been long lost by CAL FIRE's contract increases. So my next thing is, I already have seen our fire trucks with the CAL FIRE logo on them. I have a hard time as a resident of Atwater wondering how you decided that this was a good idea. Did they contribute any finances in the purchase of the trucks? Did they? So they get free advertising on our trucks. There are times, believe me, when I sit here, I wonder how some of these decisions are made by you people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ruthie. You don't have to snarl. You haven't even spoken yet. Goodness gracious.
Jeannie Knight, 3218 North Buhack Road, Atwater, California. First off, I'd like to apologize to Scott McBride. I did not get a letter because I'm not within the 300 feet. So, sorry, Scott. Secondly, the city wrote a check today to Jim Briscoe for $206,581. Check number 65614. I'm pretty sure I know what that's for, but can you tell us exactly what that's for? Somebody? Nobody?
Patrick, can you address that?
You know, I'm sure I understand, and it's not excessive amount. I'm just making sure it's what it was for.
Mayor Price, members of City Council, City Manager Pietro, I'm not 100% sure what the check was written for, but I believe it's for the work that they're doing at the former wastewater treatment plant in terms of relieving that facility from any contaminated dirt or anything so that the process can be kept going to eventually turn that property back over to the city to sell it as a commercial property. So I believe that's what that check was for. As far as I know, that's the only business that we're doing with Jim Briscoe at this point in time. But however, that being said, I can definitely check into that if you'd like me to do so.
I have to assume that it's for hazardous waste disposal because there shouldn't have been any money transferred on their contract. So I'm thinking that the $206,000 is for hazardous material that they had to discard because the city was going to take all responsibility for that.
It was my understanding that that's the 10 acres behind the treatment plant that they had to dig down 4 to 5 feet to turn the ground because it's been drying beds for many, many years.
Right.
And get rid of all the sludge. So, and part of the other issue is the item at the treatment plant that Patrick mentioned.
And there was no, I mean, what was the hazardous material?
It was all the nitrates in the soil. They had to go down about 4.5 feet in the soil.
Okay, got it.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. Otto Reagan brought up a really good point on his particular business, which I frequented quite a bit and bought some things there. He has a number of vendors in there, and that brings up the question of what exactly we're doing with flea markets. Of course, the one on Atwater Boulevard that we're all familiar with, and also the one at the end of Clover. Are we collecting business license fees from those vendors as well? I realize there's supposed to be a difference between a flea market and an antique store. Unfortunately, the one on Atwater Boulevard, I think there's a lot of vendors in there that are there every single day they have an opening, which is twice a week. So I'm thinking that if we're going to be collecting from his vendors, we also need to collect from those vendors as well. And I don't know what our policy is. That's up to you to decide that. But it just raised a question in my mind, and I was wondering what exactly we're going to be doing with those businesses going forward as far as business licenses go, too. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the council? Seeing none, move on to the next agenda item.
Consent calendar. Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Are there any items that the council wishes to remove for separate consideration? I just want to take number 8. And entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to accept the remainder of the consent calendar.
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for the question.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Rivero?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The reason I pulled number 8, I just wanted to have the chief clarify what type of replacement vehicles we're going to have and how they're going to be equipped or what have you.
They're going to be 2 marked units, and we're not going with the Tauruses this time. We're going with Expeditions, Explorers, Ford Explorers. They seem to hold up a lot better than the current 4 or 5 vehicles that we just purchased that were police interceptors. And we'll order them, and they should be online within about 2 months, if approved.
And just as a footnote, in speaking with our police officers, the smaller vehicles were very difficult to put some of their customers in the back seat, especially when you have a cage. There was virtually no room. So I was fortunate this last week. I got a hands-on look at one with the Highway Patrol over in San Luis Obispo, and it's a very sweet piece of equipment. So I think we're going to be very fortunate to have a couple of those out on the street. Hopefully they hold up. Okay.
Need a motion?
And I'll make the motion to accept item number 8 for the consent calendar.
Second.
Call for the question.
Rivero?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Funding and budget matters. Treasurer's report for the month of June 2015.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. Before you is the June Treasury report, but the books have not been closed. They will be closed in August, so some of these figures will be changed.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Heller pertaining to the Treasurer's report? If not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Treasurer's report for June 2015.
I'll second. Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Rivero?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Public hearings. Review of proposed establishment and development of Plan Development District Number 34, located at the southeast corner of Buhack Road and Green Sands Avenue.
Mr. McBride.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you're aware, this item was continued from your previous meeting, and I'm going to provide some information tonight. Overview of the project, maybe an update on some issues since the last time we met and discussed it. And then, Mayor, as you know, it's a public hearing, so we want to invite the public up to speak on behalf of the project.
Just as a footnote to everybody, we have 65-inch monitors that we're going to have mounted here very, very soon, so you can see this stuff. I know it's very aggravating.
Well, for tonight, we'll go with the what we have. As we just previously discussed, the project is basically right here at the corner of the extension of Green Sands and Buhack Road, and it's got 8 lots. One of the lots, Lot 5, is proposed for a storm drainage basin, a private basin to provide water, collect all the water for the development. Some of the project area here along 8 is already pre-existing development, but again, this is part of the project, so it's all the way up. And then we've discussed previously that there's a proposed Chevron gas station here. We already have the building permits submitted for that. We have a Microtel Inn, building permits submitted for that as well. And then in addition to these 2 uses, you have what you might call some future shop space for retail development. This could be done in many different ways, different tenants. It does provide for drive-through. You also have a setup here, pretty typical setup for what could be a fast food type restaurant, also with the drive-through that can go through here. These uses here are not specifically part of this project, but they are part of the overall plan. This will be done by other parties at a later date. They're just being shown on here as conceptual for the time being. In the master plan, there's some architectural themes that kind of tie them back together so it works for your code. So you've got basically several different things you're going to be discussing tonight for potential actions, but primarily the big ones are actions related to the development plan, the master plan, the use permit, which allows for off-premise sale of alcohol, and the parcel map, which allows for this area to be parcelized. It kind of follows what you see here. I do have another exhibit here I'm going to show you that might show this in a little bit different light. The applicant and their engineering company, Golden Valley Engineering, were able to send this today. And I think what's helpful to look at this is this gives you a sense of where the proposed development building pads would be in relationship to the overall site. So the green space is landscaping as proposed. The brown are more or less the footprints of the buildings. What's nice about this too, they kind of show you it's very easy from looking at this as to where the locations would be for the curb cuts for access. Again, we did a traffic analysis, looked at could this work for a left turn in, and it does work. We have had that reviewed by our traffic engineer, and also assessment was prepared on behalf of the applicant for that. We also added this secondary access here so the traffic can get out and go north on Buhack. Otherwise, there's no easy way to get out here or here if you're in this area to go onto Buhack. Keep in mind, this project's going to be developed in phases. So we know the first phase is going to be this one. This is likely the second phase. So it's going to take time, but eventually you'll have a system set up throughout the entire area through an agreement where you can navigate through in your vehicle. So this road was helpful to provide for like an interim capability to get over to Buhack Road until such time as everything's kind of in place. You have existing cuts here for left in. This is a right out only. Basically have room here on this side. These are the right out exits only. So it does function. It has been looked at the traffic engineer. We're comfortable with it. The impacts on the existing signal on the existing roadway were not significant. Everything has been designed in this area for the build out of the Atwater Merced Expressway. As part of the background for the work, our traffic engineer looked at what was done by MCAG, what's being done by Ferrari Ranch, what was being calculated by this, that kind of accumulated it all. So we're very comfortable with what that indicates and where we're going on it. This does give you a sense also of where the uses are in relationship to the existing neighborhood. As we mentioned previously, everything in the area out here is in the county. It's not part of the city presently. It is designated in the county as non-residential. When and if it's brought into the city, which is being proposed as part of the Ferrari Ranch project, the future uses would be for business parks. So it all matches. It's all contiguous for that. We had some people speak at the last meeting. I know they're going to get up and discuss this tonight. I know that the engineers here, the applicants here, they're going to talk as well about kind of a resolution on a block wall concern. I did want to make just a couple of points. We were able to verify that the location of the existing tanks here little bit over 200 feet to the nearest corner, about 204, 203 feet, I believe. We did do a review based upon the plan checker who reviewed this project. There's no requirement in the code under the gas code, the building code, or the fire code that requires the development of a block wall as a separation of the uses. It's all predicated upon distance from structure to the tanks. Just one other quick comment in that area. As we've mentioned at the last meeting, there's also no requirement for a fence of any type, let alone be a fence that's a wrought iron, block wall, or chain link, because you've got uses that are adjacent to non-residential uses. It's not required in the code. The only time you would have that is if you had an adjacent residential use, and it's not what's there meaning a house, it's what's there meaning what's in the zone. And so I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that as well. I know the council had a lot of other questions. I can probably answer those tonight if you like. If there's none for me, Mayor, it might be appropriate to go ahead and open the hearing, let the different parties get up and speak, and let the public speak on the project as well.
Are there any questions for Mr. McBride at this time? If not, then we'll move forward with the public hearing. Anybody that wishes to speak to this project may come forward at this time. State your name for the record.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I'm Katie Fenters with Golden Valley Engineering. Thank you, Scott, for that great presentation. I know at the last City Council meeting we were very concerned about the propane tanks, so I wanted to give you a little more information on that. The two codes that that govern all the setbacks are the California Fire Code and the NFPA, National Fire Prevention Association. Everything is based on tank setback or tank size, and the setbacks are from the building, the public ways, and the lot lines of adjoining property. So for these tank size, the setback is 50 feet. Our building is 200 feet from the propane tanks, and our property line is 120 feet from the property line, so we are over 4 times the recommended. However, the applicant wants to maintain good relationship with the neighbors, so we are proposing a 7-foot block wall along the south line and the east line. We would like to defer the portion that is the commercial building, just so it will be a little difficult to get the commercial building, because it will be difficult to build that driveway with that block wall. So we will put it in, but we would like to be able to put that driveway in and then build the block wall. And if you guys have any other questions, please let me know.
Any further questions from the council? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Eric Lee, 1199 Atwater Boulevard. I'm going to give Scott some pictures that he's going to put on the overhead, so bear with me here. I'm going to do these one at a time. Okay. Put the first one up there. We've all had developers come into our city and make promises, and some of them didn't deliver on those promises. And Mr. Singal, I think, has a track record that that makes me feel real good about what he's doing at Green Sands. This is a well-known facility that's no longer there. This is a before picture of the Sycamore property. We all had to live with this for 10+ years. We were promised it was going to be torn down I don't know how many times. Mr. Singal came in and said he was going to tear it down. This is the one. Yeah, I'll go on the next one. I think he's held up his end. This is what it looks like now. I'm not sure of the completion date, but be assured when it is done, it will be a nice facility, and it really changes the character of that part of Sycamore. Okay, put up the other one. Okay, this is another facility that was in Merced. Looks a lot better than the one we have on First Street, but still, it's a plain, drab, doesn't really do a lot. This is what it looks like now. I think the man can be trusted to do what he says he's going to do. So I really feel confident about what he's doing. And I also know that he is not obligated by any law to mitigate anything on his project between any of his neighbors. It's actually up to those neighbors to mitigate problems that might be created because of whatever business they're in or whatever facility they might have there that might impact somebody. I think he's put the best foot forward by agreeing to a 7-foot wall. And that's, to me, that's the kind of individual he is. And I really feel that the city needs to move forward on this. He wants to get going on the development, and I would like to see this, this happen tonight with a positive vote. So thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this matter? Helen?
I realized that I misspoke the other night.
Helen, could you give us your name for the record, please?
You know me. Helen Amaranth, 4860 Clover Avenue.
But we want everybody else to know you
I
as
know.
well.
I apologize to Scott McBride because I went to LAFCO. They misplaced the A's. Out of 7 property owners, the A's were left off the list for notification since 2004. So I apologize, Scott. I apologize for saying that the ruling was that you had to have a fence. I am only worried about the safety of the people in that hotel. Propane will travel, and it will travel low. And it's going to go to the first bit of ignition that you can find. I was promised when you took the back piece of property, when Claremont homes were built, it wasn't you guys, that we would get a block wall at that time. We got a redwood fence with the plumbing into our property. My husband got sick. We did not go further with it. But at that time, I should have come back. I want something in writing that we are getting a block wall. This man may be as good as gold. I'm not saying he's not. But I'm sorry. I'm trying to run a business with my family on my own. It's not easy. I didn't want this position. I could do other things a lot better. I could run for mayor because I live at 4860 Clover Avenue. No, I like to play jokes because it makes it a little easier for me to talk. I want something in writing that we're going to get this block wall. And I think I deserve that. Maybe not. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this matter?
Hello, my name is Kathy Armstrong, 4910 West Clover Avenue. Used to be Merced, now Atwater, of course. Over the years, as I had mentioned before, our family has been there for approximately 60 years, okay? There's been a lot of development going on throughout those years, and however, progress is progress. And the last meeting, I had welcomed our new developer who will be coming into the city of Atwater. I would like to say something though, and this may be a little harsh that I say this, but to the young lady that spoke, I believe her name was Katie, with Dwayne Andrews, I do want to say when she had told the city that you're going to be having a lot of revenue come in to the city, which is definitely needed after driving around town. However, I want you to remember that those old-timers bring in revenue to this city as well, as did our parents and grandparents to this city. And that's how this city was built many years ago. Now, as I say that now, I would too like to thank Scott McBride for calling me and following up on this project. I would like to also thank Dwayne Andrews for meeting with us, discussing the wall. I think it's very important. And to the insurance agency, or to the gentleman who spoke a few moments ago, I would like to say he doesn't live there. So he doesn't know. These are beautiful. These are beautiful. How long it stays beautiful is up to the city of Atwater. And it's going to be up to you for the enforcement codes of all of Atwater, which need to be addressed, and you need to have the personnel to do it. We have to bite this bullet and do it. Taxes keep going up, nobody gets the raises, unfortunately, staff is laid off. However, you keep letting things going and it's going to get worse. Now with Kmart closing, there goes more jobs, more empty buildings. I am saying now, and to this city, we need your help. And at the last meeting, you asked us to, in God we trust. Now we say our trust is into this city. And to all of you up there, and we do know from past experiences, not with this council, but we know some shenanigans that went on into this before this developer came on with all the property at Buhack, before it was Green Sands Road. You know, been there all these years. We know the back door, the back talk, all the issues that were done. It's ugly, but this is why we have meetings, that we need to bring it out into the open. And I think a lot of you up here remember the past and remember issues, things and the shenanigans and the sales of property. And you must step aside if you are involved in any kind of illegal transaction within this city or in our near county that will soon be, that's in the county that will soon be into the city. And I hope that Merced County works well with the city of Atwater into the new developments that will come, and the issues that I brought up last time with the traffic flow, the truck stops, the flea markets, that stuff has to stop. And it's up to you, and it's up to Merced County to see that it's done. So as I say to that, I wish all of you well. I wish our new development well. I hope we all prosper and we all become good neighbors and friends, and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Hey, give me a chance. Love you. Love you.
United 3218 North Buhack Road, Atwater. Scott, are they going to put some kind of drive-through restaurant in the Chevron? Oh. Okay.
Make it quick.
No, I just had a question for Scott. Scott, on the roadway, is it going to be on Green Sands? Are there going to be trees and things, or is that just going to be pretty rocks? You know, on the expressway. I couldn't tell, sorry.
Are you asking, are they going to put trees on their property or the expressway?
Well, no, on the expressway. Are you going
No.
to just go rock?
The expressway is the way it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't really see. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak at this time to this matter? If not, close the public hearing. Recognize Mr. Raymond.
I just have a question for Mrs. Amarant, if that's okay. The morning after the last council meeting, was there anyone on your property? Would you, please?
Yes, there was.
Do you know who that individual was?
No, I don't.
No? Okay.
We don't, we're not there. The office is on Fleming, but one of the employees called and said someone was on the property.
Okay, so but you
I
don't-
think what they were doing was measuring for the length. I am not opposed to the project at all. I mean, what they're doing is fine. I am worried about the safety of the people in that hotel.
Right. I just had
That's the
some
only-
questions for
yeah,
inquiry.
That's the only, but no, there was someone there, but I think what they were doing is measuring from our tanks to their property.
Okay, thank you.
That is just an assumption, but
Any other comments from the council? Scott, with respect to the landscaping that'll be done for what is within the project, do you know if any of this is proposed to be xeriscape?
We haven't got to that point, but I don't believe so. I believe it's very similar to what you see throughout the city.
Okay. Well, I don't mean to make it a deal stopper. I'm just looking at it from the drought aspect and other developments that we are looking at within the city. I'm encouraged that the developer has made the amendment to allow for the brick wall. Giving it more thought myself, I know the prevailing winds tend to blow north and south to north, and it'd be tough to say that there would be an issue there, but be that as it may, I'm encouraged, and I want this to move forward, and I think we need to do that tonight. So if anybody else does not have any questions or comments? Mr. Vineyard?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm ecstatic that the applicant was willing to step forward and work with the property owners and work with the city to do this, but also, being as it's not required, it shows that he's buying into the community, and he's buying into what's around him, and he wants to help move the city forward as well. So I applaud him, and I applaud the people here that spoke out and worked with him, because it takes a joint effort of everybody to make things work. So I applaud you all. But I'll make a motion to adopt. Do we need 4 resolutions, or can we adopt this as a package? That's my question.
You can, as presented, and with the amendment, if that's at all appropriate for the brick wall.
Okay, then I'll move to adopt this as presented with the inclusion of the amendment.
And I'll second that. And I just also want to say I am thrilled that this project is moving forward. As was mentioned tonight, the unfortunate corporate decision of Kmart to leave our city here, this is perhaps not all the revenue, but it could be. And I am encouraged that at least we have something that's going to backfill that loss. And especially with the addition of TOT tax that will stay all right here. And I know there's been discussion on how do we pay for services and all that. Well, this is how you do it. And TOT is a huge part of it because we don't share it with anybody. So I'm very encouraged with that. With that, we'll call for the question.
Rivero?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good.
City Attorney reports. Monthly review of local drought emergency.
Council, Mr. Mayor, and our public, there are no changes to the condition. Unfortunately, all of the conditions remain the same, which support the existence of the declaration of a local drought emergency. So we would request that you reaffirm the facts and findings in resolution number 2823-15, declaring the existence of a local drought emergency.
Any comments from the council? Mr. Vineyard.
Actually, before we get too involved, I would like to introduce the public to our newest volunteer. He's our Atwater water abatement volunteer, and have him come up and give us a synopsis of what he's run into since he's come on duty as of Friday. Greg Olzak.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. Well, I want to thank you for having me as part of this presentation. And if I could give a little background, and possibly anybody else that was involved in how this all came together, a couple of members of the council and staff. I think that we can give the public an idea of where we came from when this initial ordinance was adopted in June 1st, I believe, and how we got there for here. As it turns out, I'm one of those citizens that, you know, drives around the community an awful lot, as well as, you know, probably everybody else. And I found that because I'm up early in the morning going some different places, that there was an awful lot of water flowing in the gutters, and sprinklers were on wrong days and things like that. So I noted it, and because you know, I had the ability to talk with some of the members of the council and staff members, we got into a conversation, and it became apparent that the ordinance, for as well intended as it is, was kind of stuck in neutral. That's my perception, and you know, I don't know about everybody else, but it just seemed like it wasn't really being worked on and implemented. So through some discussions that came to pass, I think we had a real productive meeting. I believe it was a week ago. And I was thankful that I got to be part of it from a public standpoint. But anyway, we worked out what we think is a working way of implementing the ordinance. And I'm sure there's be some glitches and some fine tuning, but I was able to, since I was looking around as a unofficial member of the community, and then now that I'm sworn in as an Atwater police officer, and which, you know, who would have thought I'd go from being, you know, a mayor to a policeman. In fact, somebody said, you got promoted. So, but I'm honored to be part of that group of gentlemen and ladies. But so anyway, this past Friday, we we got our coat, I almost said coat hanger, excuse me, door hangers that pretty much tell about what the ordinance is all about. We also have these yellow flyers that basically is the water, it's called watering restrictions, both in English and Spanish, and pretty much is the ordinance in fine print. So armed with these two pieces of information, I set out, and starting early Friday morning, started looking around, and as all of you hopefully know, because of the new 2-day restrictions, it was 3 days a week, as you remember, the even address. And I'm going to go through this just because what I found, you all know this, but as I've talked to various people, it's surprising how many people out in the public aren't aware of various aspects of this. So because we have the ability to have our gentlemen televising this, I would like to take, if it's okay, a few minutes and kind of explain that for kind of a public information, public outreach. And basically, as we know, the even numbered addresses used to be watering on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Now it's Tuesday and Saturday only. The odd numbers are Wednesday, it used to be Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. Now Friday is out, so it's just Wednesday and Sunday. And for as long as I can remember, Monday has not been an option for anybody, which is today. So anyway, last Friday when I set out to drive around, there was no watering the day before on Thursday and on the day Friday. So I kind of meandered around town in no particular fashion, and came up with 26 violations. And over a 4-hour period. The next day I got another 26, coincidentally. That was Friday. Saturday, I went out both morning and evening, and because I had the help of a gentleman over by the golf course who was also interested in this same thing, and he was kind of my advanced scout, and he told me a few things, so I went out and got 9 more that evening. And then today, which has never been a watering day, just to show you how we have a lot of lack of knowledge amongst the citizenry, I still got 25 today. So basically I'm right at 100 in these 4 days only. And these are all, these aren't duplications, these are all new people. And Patrick Ferretta, our Public Works Director, was able to ride with me this morning for about 4 hours, and we were surprised at wherever we went in town, and I think we went 35 miles, as it turns out, and from north to south, and we collected those 25, ran into some very interesting situations. At our meeting, if I might characterize that the other day, we were under the impression that either people wanted to abide by the ordinance or they weren't for some reason. Well, it turns out that there's a lot of variations there. Everybody has leading a different life, or there's a lot of different reasons to be wasting water. And I think probably one of the, if I might tell a little anecdote, we came upon one where the water literally was seeping out of this dry lawn over by the golf course. And we were looking at trying to figure out why, because there was really no wet grass, but yet the water was just seeping. So we thought, oh, it's a leak. So we went up to the house. The lady said, no, I've been watering. I'm letting my grass go because of the drought. I said, well, where's the water coming from? She said, it's my neighbor next door. So we went over and knocked at the door. It turns out that her husband was working in the backyard the previous day, turned on the water to test it out, never turned it off. They went, I guess they retired for the evening, so it was 8:30 the next day, the water was still pouring out. So that was going all night like that. Nobody saw it, and luckily my advanced scout there around the golf course, told us about it. We went over, and they didn't know anything about it. So it literally traveled to the neighbor's yard, flooded their backyard, and came out their front. So we were all set to, if we wouldn't have asked any questions, we would have been ticketing or giving a warning, initial warning, to the person that was innocent. But because we investigated, did the right question, asked the right questions, we had to cite that other person, and she was fine with that because she knew that it was a problem. That just goes to show you the extremes that that there's a million stories out there. But anyway, what I personally would like to do is not give out any warnings at all, because I would like to be able to let everybody be aware of things and them do it on their own, so that we just talk to them, educate them, and if people do not want to comply, then that's where the warning comes in. And as you all know, and the public necessarily, it's a four-step process. The first encounter or violation is a warning. No fine. The second one would be a $50 fine that goes on the water bill. And staff, correct me if I'm not getting this exactly correct. The third one is a $75 one, and this is all in the course of a calendar year. And then the fourth one, which is the big enchilada, that's $250 with the owner of the property getting to buy and pay for the installation of a water meter. So that's, a pretty big bite to chew on. So we're hoping it never gets to that, at least I am. And everybody that I've talked to that has either I've been able to encounter or has called me, because I've made it known that I'd be happy to talk with folks, they pretty much said, I didn't realize it. The landlord set this and said everything was okay. My husband, we don't know how to fix this, the time clock. Our landscaper takes care of this. I have no idea what's going on. The other problem too is that I'm doing this in the early morning hours, and the sprinklers are on when everybody's asleep. So people can, get up, get ready, go to work, and the damage is already done. They don't even know that the water has been flowing over the curb for, say a half hour, and wasting all that water. And unfortunately, because it's the early morning hours, I can't knock on the doors necessarily, because they would be mad if I woke them up. It is better when it gets to be daylight and people up moving around, then I get to talk to those folks. So I imagine that there will be some people that aren't real happy with their encounters, but I'm doing the best I can to put on a positive face, and most people have reacted well. And they just, I think most people, the great majority of them, want to do the right thing. It's just a lot of them either don't know how to do it or don't even know they're violating it in the first place. So that being said, I think we've got a good footing. I would say also that right now I've kind of taken the initial lead, but the rest of the police volunteers are getting up to speed on this. And they are going to be seen encountering these things as they drive around too. And hopefully if we all have the same kind of attitude and, shall we say, way of looking at the world, everybody's going to start to learn that they need to change. Everybody doesn't want to have wastewater, but not everybody is aware of how to do it.
Thanks, Greg.
So
just to the public know, the plan on this is all volunteers will be issuing the administrative citations along with the CSO and then the code enforcement officer. That's kind of how the committee determined to do it. Do appreciate you giving us a little synopsis. I know you're in charge, but does anybody have any questions for me?
Thank you. One of the things also that Greg went through a lot of information there, but one of the other things also is a no watering day also includes your shrubs. So, remember that aspect of it as well. We're also going to establish a hotline so that people can phone in what they observe. If there's something going on somewhere in your neighborhood or a business or something, they can phone it in and action can be taken on that. We're also going to come back in 90 days, I believe, and we're going to review where we're at and see how this education thing is working out. One of the comments that I made in this meeting is, this is, moving into year 5 of a drought, and I can't imagine anybody that doesn't know anything about it. And if your streets are anything like mine, I have a lot of people with dead lawns right now, and it's not just because they're lazy, it's because these folks are taking it right to the max. And so what we're looking for, and I think Greg and Councilman Vineyard are all saying, we're all saying here, is we're looking for compliance, from everybody, so that, we don't find ourselves in this situation again. Hopefully. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not there's going to be this horrific El Nino this winter. And at this time last year, there was also talk of an El Nino, and it kind of fizzled out. So whether or not that's going to happen is going to, we'll all know when we turn on the windshield wipers here come November, December, January, in that time frame, I guess. But until such time as we can get out of this situation, I think what the volunteers and Greg, what you're doing is commendable, and we thank you for your dedication to helping out the community with this education process.
Yeah. No problem, my pleasure. It's kind of labor of love, and it's to keep our community, being the best it could be. You brought up a few points that I also wanted to,
sure,
that I forgot, and I'll make this quick. One thing that people need to realize is that there's a lot of concern about that they say that they start watering and then the water starts rolling off real quick. It's because of their surface, or maybe they have some hard ground or something. The time for watering on, let's say you take an even address, and so they're on Tuesday and Thursday, same applies for Wednesday, Friday, they have the ability to water on that day from midnight to 7 a.m., and then it's supposed to stop. And then you can also go from 7 p.m. to midnight that night. So there's 2 times in the day, early morning, later in the evening. And if someone has a problem with not being able to, if they think they need 15 minutes of water, but the water doesn't hold, they could split it up and do some in the morning, some in the evening. But it's not a whole overnight thing. So there was a little bit of confusion on that. So that's something that people should realize that they can take advantage of. And I would recommend, if they don't know anything about yards or anything else, there's plenty of companies out there that they might want to at least ask for some help and maybe change out sprinklers and get more high tech. And so there's things people can do. It's just a question of putting out the effort and everything.
Right. And this education thing also, I've been hearing it from a lot of folks also. They didn't know about it. Well, this got mailed out, okay, so people can see that. We also have the newsletter that goes out with all the water bills, and more often than not I'm hearing, I never bother to read that. And it's got a lot of information in there, just like what we're talking about. So please, for the folks here and for those of you that are watching at home, when you get your water bill, rather than just scratch out a check and mail it in or however you do it, take a look at that water bill and the newsletter that's in there for the information that is going to be in there to let you know about how this water ordinance and how we're trying to conserve and how it's working. So, okay? Thank you, Greg.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Raymond.
Just to refresh my memory, because I can't recall at the moment, does the ordinance specifically say that volunteers can cite?
There are those.
Yes.
Okay. And then I received pictures, and I'm a city manager, you did too. Does there have to be evidence for water abuse? Because in these photos that are time-stamped, someone in the community got a notice, but there was no water anywhere on the sidewalks or anything. So we need to make sure there's no abuses like that going on as well. I don't know how we're going to do that, but it's something we need to look into.
I'll make a motion to follow staff's recommendation on reaffirming the facts and findings of Resolution 2823-15.
Second. Any further discussion? Mr. Rivera.
Yeah, I had a question for the city attorney. In the past, there was a portion that from the law that was handed down saying that a mandatory, that potential mandatory jail time is, by approving this, is that still okaying that portion of it?
Are you talking about what that's in our ordinance?
Yes.
Or?
Well, when we were passing our ordinance, it was brought up about jail time, and I was completely against that. I thought I was taking it to some kind of extreme. And if we were to pass this, does that still include that portion? Because if it does, I will not be voting for this.
That would be in the ordinance, I believe, not in the resolution. And so what you're doing today is reaffirming the findings that support the declaration of a drought emergency. The penalties for violation of our rules are set forth in the ordinance. And so if there's an issue with that, then we would need to re-examine the ordinance, not this resolution that's on the agenda
I just
tonight.
wanted to be sure it wasn't attached in any way. Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? Call for the question.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rivero?
Yes.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Reports and presentations from staff. Ratifying urgency award for purchase of radio system and other related equipment for police department communications.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, back in March 3rd of 2014, the Office of Emergency Services, the 911 branch, came into our agency, our communications division, and put in close to $300,000 to upgrade our 911 system in regards to a new mapping portion of this 911. Prior to that, any 911 phone calls coming from a cell phone would go directly to CHP, and then they would transfer them to us. Now we'll have an actual mapping program on the new 911 system to allow us to help track any 911 calls that come in from a cell phone. Now understand that this money was spent by the state. It was $293,000. Unfortunately, for the past 4.5 months, we can't use that program because our console and radio equipment is so outdated and antiquated that we have issues even hooking up to it. So at this point in time, it's not being used. Among the other issues that even the mayor and Councilman Vineyard have seen in the past, we're experiencing failures. We experienced a failure in the last major incident we had with the officer-involved shooting. This is unbelievable to me that we've gone this far for these issues in the radio, and nobody has addressed that. In accordance with the City of Atwater Purchasing Manual, Section 9, Urgency Purchase Policies, I can make that decision and go ahead and start purchasing the equipment and then coming to council at a later date for your approval. It's staff's recommendation that you approve ratifying the urgency purchase of the radio and other equipment for the Communications Division. And I will tell you that the money that will be spent is coming out of the Internal Technology Fund, which is a budgetary item in our budget this year. We've put $453,000 in there this year for technology. This is not coming out of the Measure H account at all. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chief Petro? Well, I can only, again, say that, you know, as the chief noted, in my ride-alongs and discussions with the officers here in the department, there has been a continual breakdown of the communications that are on their person and also in the vehicles. And this is something that has long been overdue to get rectified. Anybody that knows anything about cop work knows that these guys, you know, they could be all alone in a very ugly part of town, be injured, be under fire, any number of things, and without communications to get the help they need, it's uncalled for. So I am 110% in favor of making this happen, and as quickly as we can make it happen. So with that, I'll make the motion to approve as presented. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question.
Yes,
how many officer radios were we looking at? 40. Thank you.
Any further questions? Call for the question.
Vineyard?
Yes.
Rivero?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Price?
Yes.
Motion carries. Verbal reports and presentations from staff. Water conservation efforts with possible direction. Is that going to be continued? Okay. This item will be continued to the next regular city council meeting. Highway Safety Improvement Program application for signal modification at Juniper Avenue and Schaefer Road.
Mr. McBride.
Mayor, Councilmember, I just wanted to let you know that we're hard at work on this item. It is due to the state by Friday. In 2008, there was a recommendation from a traffic study to provide a split phasing that would protect left turns on east and westbound Juniper Road at Schaefer. Several months ago, you provided for the approval to get a traffic engineer on board. We've been working on a long list of issues that have been present in the police department. We've talked about with the Community Development and Resources Commission, and also people in the public. So we're trying to go through those kind of significance. And this one, there's an opportunity to apply for the funding now for this work, and so we want to go ahead and get it in. The area is eligible. However, it has to be something that can be correctable by the measures. The engineers looked at it and verified that it can be done, that complements the traffic study that was done years ago. And so we're taking the next steps to get this done. Hopefully to get it in. We've got a few little pieces we need some help with from the PD. They're being very cooperative. But that's just kind of the update. I don't have an exact dollar amount for you, but it's somewhere between about $250,000 to $300,000, maybe even slightly less, but in that range. And hopefully maybe by the next meeting I'll have some other update for you if possible, but that's what we're working on for right now.
Yep. Any questions or comments for Mr. McBride on this issue? Any comments from the public pertaining to this issue? Okay, with that we'll move on.
Vacant building sales tax rebate program.
I did want to provide the council with just a little bit of an update on some of the activity we've had in providing information related to your resolution 281215. That's your vacant building sales tax rebate program. That was adopted back in May of this year. We do have information. There's a dedicated spot on the front page of the city website. We provided information in the city's utility newsletter. We've directly provided information to the Merced County Association of Realtors on this program. We've gone through the list of commercial realtors with listings in the city and given them information directly. That includes people like Brixmore, who are in charge of the Applegate Ranch Shopping Center, COSOL out of Modesto that has the former Save Mart Center at Bellevue and Winton Way. They also do leasing near the Tractor Supply store. You may have recognized that there's a new sign in front of the Kmart. They're aware of the program. We provided them information as well. That's Voight. Islay Investments, that is managing the property and doing the listings for the former center here where Mi Pueblo is and the other vacant spaces. They have the information. Also providing it to Retail California. They've got various listings in different locations of the city. So I personally sent them all the information. I've also provided information to several agencies locally that I know that do commercial realty. 1080 Realty is one, Caldwell Banker, and if anyone else is interested and calls me or has interest, we'll send it to them. I can tell you that for new applicants that are applying for use permits or site plans, if it's including a vacant existing building and it's new to the city, we're giving them information as well. So we're trying to cover all of our bases, get the information out there. Hopefully it will yield what you're looking for, which is reuse of a vacant building and some additional revenue to the city.
Any questions to this matter with Mr. Vineyard? Hey, Mr. Raymond.
Have you reached out to any businesses locally or in surrounding counties?
I haven't specifically targeted businesses that are already operating somewhere. Like I said, if someone has an interest to apply, I'll give you an example. We've had a couple of used car sales that need to get a use permit to operate in the city, and when they've made the applications, I've let them know about it. But as far as contacting other businesses saying, hey, if you relocate here to a vacant building and get this, no, I haven't done that.
Okay. I know there are some interested ones. Supervisor McDaniel and myself have spoken to quite a few, so I can pass that on to the city manager and we can try to coordinate some efforts.
Yeah, and obviously anyone I miss, the information's on the website and you have it as well. I mean, I think the key is we all have to work together and share the information.
Any other questions of Mr. McBride? Anyone in the audience today wish to speak to this matter? If not, we'll move on.
Atwater Boulevard Winton Way project.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the council know, as you're aware, we did award the bid some time ago to start the construction on this project. That work is probably going to be taking off in mid-August. We wanted to wait to get through 4th of July. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of demolition along a portion of Winton Way in front of Broadway while this is going to go on. This is going to be a project that's going to be over multi-months. This is going to start in August. It's probably going to go through November. It's probably going to go through Thanksgiving. It's going to be a lot of inconvenience for the people of the city, and everyone's going to have to bear with us as we do this. There's no easy way to do this. When you're closing off traffic lanes at probably one of the busiest intersections in the city, people are going to be frustrated. We know traffic backs up now. It's going to be worse during this construction period. In the end, all things going correctly, it should make things a little better. It won't solve all the problems, but it will definitely help out. You know, as the council's aware, we're basically adding a couple turn lanes. Actually, I have a plan I could throw up here. So as the council's aware, we're adding a left or right turn lane on southbound Winton Way, this corner. We're adding a small right turn lane here, doing a little bit of modification in this area to straighten out the geometrics. Another item that's on your list is also working with the railroad on the preemption timing here. So that's kind of what's proposed as part of this project. I think the council's aware too that we did receive funding for years down the road for traffic synchronization, and that's to install a new signal at Olive Avenue. That's to get this one linked to it, the one at Sycamore, the one at Applegate and Commerce, the one from the CHP, and the one right off of the exit from the freeway. That will be the one that will really help to try to mitigate the backups and get it all working together. This one right here, though, is to modify preemption for safer timing and provide for additional turn movements that we don't have today. So it's an interim fix, but it's not going to be the full fix. The bond funds from a former agency are being used for this project, so it's not going to be using local funds. This is funds that have been set aside for this purpose for many years. We do know that as part of this is going to kind of skip down, or actually earlier tonight you took action on one of your consent items, which is an agreement with UP Railroad. I just wanted to kind of point out that this goes hand in hand with that. That's an agreement for $395,000, again using bond funds. It's for work that has to be done related to this project that we can't do. It has to only be done by the railroad, but they do work together. So the two things, this signal modification and the railroad, you're spending about $1.5 million of your $2.3 million bond funds you have set aside. And so all that work's going to be in front of you, like I said, between middle of August and basically through November. So We're going to try to get word out as best we can as we have a schedule set up. We're working on traffic control right now, and also kind of facilitating some of the utility relocation that has to work with the cable, AT&T, and PG&E. We could use a full-time person on this project, I can tell you that, but I know that it's not going to happen, so we're doing the best we can.
Mr. Vineyard.
I know you said you're going to try to get the word out as best we can, but could we put something in the, and I know people don't read the newsletter, but something in the newsletter, something in the Winton Atwater Times, something possibly in the Merced Sun Star, talking about this, that this is going to run to help get the word out even more than what they've already got planned, because we got to get the word out as much as possible just to stop basically the pandemonium or whatever it's going to cost. People are going to get aggravated, so we got to try to reduce that aggravation as much as possible. So to get the word out as every avenue we can possibly think of would be the best I think we could do, if we can do that.
You ought to know that aggravation comes with the territory by now.
Hey, I also know you put water on it and it cools it down, so. You put water on it, you put the fire out.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
Let's try to put the water on it beforehand.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. McBride on this subject? Anyone from the audience wish to address this? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, and please give your name for the record.
Ray Wilson, 1464 Valley. With regards to this, I would like to ask if the center turn lane that extends northwest on Atwater Boulevard could be added to the southeastbound traffic only. It's useless going that way because you can't turn left because of the railroad. And it's, I just can't understand why there's a turn lane there. It kind of restricts traffic coming down off of southbound 99. Is there anything in the plans for that?
Yeah, these are some additional details for the approved plans. I'm not quite sure what you're asking about. To modify the plans, we'd have to have it drawn up by the engineer. The contractor would have to agree to a change order, but this project took over 7 years to design. I can tell you a lot of time was spent on the details. And one thing we didn't want to do is limit any existing turn movements. So we're adding right turns. We're not taking away any left or throughs anywhere. We are constrained by the width of the intersection at the railroad. We wanted to add 2 more lanes to make it wider. There's going to be over $1 million more to move that. We have to move a whole system that relocates the tracks. It's a switch there. So, I'd be happy to sit down with you and go over this, but what you have is what you have for the time being. And any other changes has to go through the process for a change order.
Were you speaking to the west left turn on?
As you head northwest on Atwater Boulevard towards 99.
Right.
There's a center turn lane.
The one that turns left over the tracks.
Except you can't turn left over the tracks. There's railroad tracks there. There's no streets coming off of that.
I'm not following.
This is for the northwest of this intersection.
Right. Okay.
You can turn left coming southbound. You get on Olive and all those side streets. But I just suggest you make it 2 lanes coming south.
The turn lane, I believe, is so you can get into like the fueling station. You can get into the homes that are there.
Right, but traffic going north
Yeah.
doesn't have to cross traffic. They just turn in. It's really there only for traffic coming south, but it's a double yellow, so
Yeah.
it limits it to 1 lane. With the Buhack Road exit, us that live on the southeast side, really only have 1 exit on this side of the tracks. So traffic's not going to get any better once Gurr Road's open. So
Yeah, get together with Mr. McBride and go over the drawings and understand. As he mentioned, project changes are awfully expensive, and there's only so much money that was allocated for this project. So, anyway, let him go ahead and explain it. He's the expert for that there, and see if there's any flex at all in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay. the Broadway project.
Again, Mayor, on this project, this was one that was done kind of concurrently with the design and bidding for Atwater Boulevard Winton Way. You also awarded this at the same night as the Broadway, is the same night as the other project. We're looking to get started just slightly afterwards. We're probably not going to start the same week or two. We're probably looking at maybe deferred by a few weeks to a month. We're looking at probably middle September, something in that time frame. But that could change a little bit. We're still working through it. I can tell you that this project is a lot less defined, and the reason for that is that we had great plans, we had great intentions, but the problem was you don't have enough money for the plans that were put together. If you take out Atwater Boulevard Winton Way, plus the money we have to spend for the railroad, it leaves you with about $739,000. The project that we had bid for Broadway was about $1.7 million, so you're about $1 million short of doing the work we had in the plans. So we're going through a process of elimination with the contractor on what is it that you can live with and what can we live without. And so kind of high on the list of what we want to fix are eliminating the Bowmanite, that's the very bumpy crosswalks of the road, addressing any slopes off of the corners to make sure they meet current ADA. We could fix them to look nice, but if they don't meet current ADA, you still have some issues there. That may mean lowering some of the crowns of the intersections. We know we can fix the drainage issue at 3rd and Broadway. Some things I know we can't do. We're not going to be able to do landscaping. You're probably going to have to live with the existing irrigation landscaping that you have now. We're probably not going to be able to add any new lights. We hope to reuse as much of the existing electrical system as possible and try to reuse the bases for the current electrical system just to add new poles and new fixtures. That's kind of the range of what you can get done with the dollars we have. And so that's what we're trying to work on. So I don't have anything else to tell you on that, just that it's still forthcoming. It's going to be a reduced project, but it will, I think, accomplish pedestrian safety and the drainage issue that the council outlined as some of the priorities.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. McBride? Yeah, Scott, I think that the drainage issue and the compliance with ADA requirements and that with respect to the crosswalks, I think are probably number 1 and 2 respectively right there. Is seeing what little rain we had and what doesn't drain away out there by Pasadores and all that is completely unacceptable. That's got to get taken care of as soon as possible. So, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this matter? All right. And last but not least, item number 20.
Process to update the general plan.
There was some discussion at a previous meeting to kind of get an idea of how we might go about updating the general plan. And unfortunately, I don't have a real optimistic solution for you. I can tell you the general plan is set to expire in 2020. I can tell you that I've gotten a couple conversations with service providers that do this type of work, and they do the EIRs related to them. And the minimum they're thinking it would cost is about $850 to $900,000. I think realistically it's more like $1 million to $1.2 million. So that's kind of the range. I think that's probably accurate. It's split about half and half. EIR is probably $400 to $500, and the rest of the work is about that range. Keep in mind the housing element's kind of independent. There are 7 components of the general plan. The housing is independent. We're working on that right now. So that may have some livelihood beyond the remainder of it. But you do have something that's going to have to be addressed. Obviously, you wouldn't need all the funds at one time. You're probably going to need a couple $100,000 at increments to kind of get this done over multiple years. The key pieces that are really outdated that are going to take the most work are going to be your land use patterns in the general plan, where you intend to grow, how you want to grow the community, what type of development. Your traffic is going to be related directly to that. And the third piece is related to both of those. And this is kind of the new one, the one that our general plan currently doesn't even address at all, is kind of your greenhouse gas and emissions. And that's an area that we don't have anything currently. And so that's new and required for new general plans. So those 3 pieces do definitely go together. In talking with both of the people I got the estimates for, they said usually what happens is this is the first piece. And then you have additional expense beyond that, because you very often have to come in and do substantial amendments to your existing zoning code to implement anything you want in your general plan. So you're going to need to have money for the time to do that work, legal, everything else involved with that. Secondly, you typically have to amend your impact fees, your AB 1600, so that's another piece that gets done afterwards, because you want to be able to implement the things that you want to achieve in your general plan, meaning your fees have to be accurate to do that. You may also have some impacts that have to be mitigated through mitigation measures of the IR that directly have to be paid for. Other things that come up, typically master plans that you have for your utilities often have to update because you've changed your growth patterns. And then very often, one of the things that gets done as part of this is you've got new issues that precipitate the need for a new tax sharing agreement. So it's a process. Once you start it, you've got all these different avenues to go through. And I know that we're getting up against the date. I just don't know that how we're going to get to that point where we're actually going to implement the work on it, let alone who's going to have the time to do it. So it's not work that you can do with your staff. I can tell you that. It has to be done by somebody that works in this area, that comes in and they know how to lead us, but also it does involve a great deal of participation on behalf of your staff and also the council and the public. So it's a very involved process to do this. That's all I have for you tonight on this.
Any questions for Mr. McBride? Scott, one aspect of the general plan that I'm just curious on, is there any flex to possibly get an extension to the timeline?
There is the ability to get some extension once you've committed to start the update process. I did read in some of the codes where they can allow for up to 2 different extensions, but usually you have a plan in place as to how you're going to prepare this and some schedules. It doesn't just give you carte blanche to extend what you currently have. They want to know that it's tied to you actually doing an update.
Alrighty. Anyone in the audience have any comments with respect to the general plan? Okay.
City Council matters. City Council comments and requests for future agenda items.
Mr. Raymond, and leave those glasses where they are.
Just asking for it now. So, no.
All these comedians out of work.
In all seriousness, I just want to say I want to thank Supervisors Pedroza, Walsh, and McDaniel. Anytime I've come to them with matters that are related to city, county, they're very good to work with, been more than accommodating. As most people know, Supervisor McDaniel and I are joined at the hip, and recently, every 4th Thursday of the month, we host a mobile district office here, and it's a great time where you can come down, you can talk to city, state, and federal officials, as well as county, from 1:30 to 3:30. So that's every 4th Thursday. We went and toured Westmark recently. It's another hidden treasure in town, one of the biggest employers, making tanks, doing great things.
Tanks, like not tanks, but truck.
We would be working on that.
Let's not freak everybody out with
water tanks, different things, milk tanks. We also hosted our second grant writing workshop. Our first one was a success, and 2 grants have already actually been funded. So we're going to be working on a possible third, as well as a workshop that's going to teach local small businesses how to compete for federal and state jobs. So try to make our area more competitive. So there's lots of things going on. We hope that everyone gets involved and we can make this place grow.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Mr. Vineyard.
Yeah, I want to make, with all the construction that's going around this place, I want to commend the police department for their due diligence in how active they've been in fighting crime. I also wanted to give due diligence to the police and fire department. They had a fire recently by the tire shop and the apartment complex. The fire department made a great stop. I was out there this morning looking at the fire. Nobody was around, which was fine. It had a potential for taking out a whole complex. If Fortunately, it only took out 2 apartments and did minor damage to the tire shop. It's still under investigation, but they did a great job in what they did, as usual. The police department did a great job getting there and getting the occupants, along with the fire department, getting the occupants out of all the buildings. So in working together, that's what it's all about. So I want to commend both departments. I want to commend the community for coming out, speaking out as they do. That's important. It's an important thing to keep us on our toes. And keep doing what you're doing out there, because it's important. Keep taking back to your city. We passed the resolution to adopt a park. We had 6 parks adopted that night. I've had 2 more parks adopted since then. So I want to keep that effort up. So anyway, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rivero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to use my time to thank the volunteers out there that have done so much for the community, the youths in the community. Just recently, the Atwater Stingrays, they had one of the largest teams in the area, and their season's coming to an end right now. So it gave the kids not only an opportunity to get out of the heat, but also get away from the video games and everything else, and to go out there and get some exercise. And they had a large group that had been competing and practicing nearly every day. I want to thank Jason Mudrack, who's the president, and all the rest of your board for putting in so much volunteer time, and all of the students out there. There was a lot of student athletes that volunteer their time working with the kids, and I saw them out there doing it. If someone was having a little bit of difficulty, they took them one-on-one. So be considering this, if parents don't know about this wonderful group, the Atwater Stingrays, consider this next year for your children over the summer, because they will work with your kids and help them be the best swimmers they can be. So I want to thank your group, all the high school students, and everybody else out there that volunteers to make this such a wonderful community for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. And a few things. 27th of August, I hope everybody's keeping that on their calendar. We're going to have a kind of a dual-purpose town hall and update on Mello-Roos. That'll be 27th of August at the Community Center, 6 o'clock. So please, if you have any questions pertaining to the Mello-Roos, want to get an update on that, and also Town Hall, so that we can all chat about stuff going on in the city and listen to your ideas, okay? Wanted to also make mention, there was a new restaurant. It's out at Castle, but it's out there where the former Honeybee and all that, if you're familiar with that. There's a new restaurant there. It's called the New Day Cafe. They serve breakfast and lunch out there, and it's pretty good. Mr. Raymond and I went over there and sampled it there on their opening day, and it's pretty good stuff. So just wanted to give them a little bit of a plug, and you know, it's a new business, family run, and so drop on by out there. They're open Monday through Friday right now, but we're trying to coerce them into trying to get in on the weekend as well. Want to also make people aware that Marvin is, what's Marvin's last name? Yeah. Okay. Any case, yeah, he was. I saw him split, and I was hoping he'd hang around. But in any case, we are having a new website designed, and I've just been given a sample of the homepage to this thing with a slideshow of pictures of our community and all that, and it is really nice. So be looking for that in the very near future. We're going to have new information and things on there that hopefully will make it a little more conducive to people that may be wanting to do business in our city, and try to get, you know, that information that businesses need in order to relocate or expand or whatever. So be looking for that real soon. And lastly, I want to adjourn the meeting tonight in the memory of Officer Craig Williams. In case the community didn't know, Craig passed away most recently this last week, I believe. And just to give you a little history on him, Craig came to the department in April of 1977 and retired in October of 2012. His last position was as a public safety dispatcher, but he was also a street officer during that time. And for anybody that would like to attend a memorial for him, it'll be this Thursday at 10 o'clock, and it'll be at the Winton Cemetery. So if anybody wishes to go and pay their respects to the family and friends of Officer Williams, they're more than welcome to do so, and I encourage you to do that. Any public service officer, I have the utmost respect for, police and fire together. So they're the guys that kept us safe for all these years, and Greg was one of them. He was one of the good guys. So with that, adjourn.